Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Dave from the band Hedley, and you are at Popularity.
How does a band approach their music, and how has that approach changed over time?
Uh, well, we always, learning to play with people is always an interesting thing. And when we got together 6 years ago, we were pretty fresh to each other. And even though we'd all played in bands before and stuff, it's always kind of like learning to, when you're taking someone out on a date and stuff, you kind of go through the motions. But after a while, it's like riding a bike. And we just started very basic, and when we, yeah, Jake's saying we all got drunk together, and that's how we really started the approach. We literally all got together for beers, and at the time, me, Chris, and Tom had been playing in a band together, and Jake had been playing in another band in town, and we decided to kind of unite forces for the greater good of making music, and got together for beers one night, and a couple days later, like, Chris still had a jam spot down on Hastings Street, and Jake had sent us some demos, and we kind of reworked to something, and he came in, and we gave him a microphone, and we're like, hey, dude, we'll play, you sing, and the song we ended up writing that night ended up on the first record, so it was very kind of cathartic and natural, and we just kind of proceeded forward as possible, you know, one foot in front of the other, and always changing. It's always, I think we're always kind of excited to see what the other person's going to do, and also, you know, just try to create something new and, you know, be a little different. I don't think any of us would ever want to write the same song in the same tempo and the same sounds over and over again. And I think our fans appreciate that too. Because if you ever come to a Hedley show, it's definitely, we try to really give some variety and put on a show. So many people have been to just a regular rock show before, and we're all about kind of taking people, kind of when you go to the movies, you know, when you go to the movies, you kind of feel like you've been taken somewhere else and kind of get to turn your brain off for a little bit. That's kind of how we like people to come to a concert, you know, enjoy it together, and, you know, but also, you know, kind of a mixed bag of nuts. We, when we're writing the songs, we try to color them differently, and like we try to add, like, we're all big like reggae fans, and reggae is one of those forms of music around the world that every country kind of has their own spin on it. Or anything from, you know, Bob Marley and the Wailers, which is a big influence of Jake's when he was growing up, to bands like, you know, the Police was big for me, and all like the English ska. So just trying to start with good songs, and then, you know, kind of color them and color like different colors in crayons. So.
What would you say are the key challenges that the band faces during your creative process?
You know, somebody said to us one time, the hardest part about being in a band is getting along in a band with each other. And, you know, I think we've all been super lucky that, you know, we've all been super positive and just tried to stay focused on, you know, making music and for the greater good. And so that'd be the toughest thing. But, you know, when you realize that, you know, you're on the road with essentially your brothers, you know, the cool thing about your brothers, you can tell them to fuck off, and, you know, the next day be having beers, and or even the same night be like, hey, man, yeah, I'm sorry, too, okay, you know, you get it out, and, you know, don't let it bottle up, so communicate.
Are there any songs on the album that surprised you by taking a different direction than you initially may have thought that they would?
The Sweater song was a song that was written on the road, and was actually one of the songs that we had first actually played for an audience before we had even recorded it. We were on a theater tour up in Canada, and originally we did it with just Jake played it acoustically, and we had the crowd sing along and sing with the chorus, but na na na, it's back to us. And it was a really special thing, but kind of going to the studio, it was kind of trying to not really recreate that, but, you know, kind of lend itself to that. It's an interesting song anyways, and it's different than other songs that we've written or recorded, so I think it was really cool, and it's, you know, it's just, like I said, it's a little story, and, you know, at the end when, you know, the boy and girl kind of meet back up, we just tried to make it as exploding as possible, so to speak, so.
Creating music is like organizing an accident. What do you think of that statement?
Sometimes a happy accident is a good thing. You never know sometimes we've had, like, you know, some songs come out of, like, you know, bits and pieces from sound checks, you know, stuff that you just kind of stumble upon, and it's like what I was saying before, when you're learning to play music with people, it's one of those things you try to see, not really see where they're going with it, but kind of, you know, be a step ahead, and really try to flow with it, and, you know, try to lend your, you know, whatever style somebody's bringing in, really try to speak the same language, I guess. So as far as, like, I always think you say organizing an accident, but I think more like taxi driver, got to get organized to where it fits. You know, you think you know exactly what's going on, but really perspective and reality kind of kick in, and it's a little different sometimes. So it's all about being open-minded and, you know, just kind of trying to create something new and, you know, focus on what we're doing. So a lot of bands, you know, I think a lot of times sometimes look at what everybody else is doing. That's a really hard thing to do, because the second you look to your side and, you know, what else is happening, you've kind of lost sight of what you're going towards. And that's a really important thing. You always have to try to do something new, and it feels good to you. So.
Can you describe your attraction to music?
It is ferocious. It's I love this. I love discovering new music. I like new stuff, but also that kind of exciting thing of going back and digging up something old that maybe you've heard before, but you know it hasn't connected in a certain way. I know Jake's been listening to a lot of Willie Nelson lately, and you know it's I remember when the Control movie came out, I got really back into Joy Division and stuff, and it kind of almost feels sometimes like music's been sitting there hiding from you, and you get to kind of rediscover it with like kind of new eyes and stuff, and it's like all of a sudden it's like it's brand new. It just came out yesterday, so. That the attraction music, it's the best drug ever. Especially performing, there's no drug that could ever come close to it. The natural high of being on stage and performing for people. Yeah, it's nothing else like it.
What would you say is the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself during the creation of the album?
What have we learned about ourselves during the creation of an album? How much coffee you can drink in a day. I'm so functional sometimes. But every day is different in the studio. And the thing, too, about recording is sometimes when you're recording with different producers and working with different people, and like it's sometimes it's a different way of getting to the point. But it's all about being comfortable, being creative, and being able to, you know, sometimes come up with things on the spot. Sometimes it's like we work with a friend of ours named Brian House, and him and his engineer Jay are great. We've worked with them since our first record. But, you know, even like with them, what we'll do is we will go in and lay down all the basic tracks and like work on like, you know, pre-pro, kind of build it all up. And then afterwards it's about kind of going back in kind of at night, and kind of Brian will say to us, okay, what do you got? And just kind of, you know, hands open and be like, you know, kind of throw whatever you want at it. And sometimes it's about, you know, doing your homework the night before and trying to come up with different things, little sounds and textures. And especially as a guitar player, I'm always trying to, you know, create a soundscape and kind of the color in the lines that, you know, like that Jake has brought in with the songs sometimes. So the big thing would be flexible and be open-minded, and, you know, be, always searching for a new way to do things sometimes. Because you're never going to know what kind of pops up out of it. So it's those happy accidents.
At this point, what would you say keeps you inspired to explore and create new music that you haven't ventured into before?
Well, I think in the long and the short of it, we're traveling songwriters and traveling storytellers more. And you know, we get to travel around and, you know, play these songs for people. And after the record is out, it's no longer our record. It's really for the fans at that point. Because anything after that it's going to be someone who's listening to the music that, you know, then it connects to them. Like, we can only do so much by putting this out. So it's about the fans, you know, picking up the record, and, you know, we all remember, you know, discovering a new band, you know, getting really into a record, and then, you know, a friend of yours or somebody else is like, oh yeah, I know that band, and it becomes that connection. And a lot of our fans too, like from Canada and the States, have, you know, either met new friends at shows, and, you know, it becomes then about, you know, being at the show together, you know, singing along with us. And we're only four people up on stage, where you could have, like, you know, like a couple thousand people in the audience, or even like 20 or 30 to 100. You know, there's still a bigger connection that's happening at that show than what we're doing. We played in Rochester last night, and there was a band called Guster, and they're a band that's, you know, toured quite a bit and played there. And even though I hadn't seen them before, I felt really connected to the people that were there, and, you know, really, like, you know, they'd announce a song they were playing, and people would cheer, and, you know, that's what you want. You want to put on a show for people and entertain them. I always had a hard time with bands when they shy away from playing, like, you know, big hit songs or songs that are fan favorites, and get very inward, I guess, because essentially you're doing it for you're doing it for other people at that point, and trying to create a connection and kind of connect everybody. Bono always talks about that. He's like, the hardest thing when you said when they were moving from like small clubs to stadiums was to try to still find that connection. But if you do it right, it's almost easier because it's like kind of like a big hug with all of your friends.
What would you say has been the highlight of 2010 for you?
Highlight of 2010. We finished quite a large tour in Canada, which we actually got to bring out way more. We brought out lighting, we brought out set changes, we did costume changes, and actually put on probably the biggest show that we've ever done. And that was really cool. But we also released The Show Must Go, which had came out a year prior, just a couple days ago, on December 7th. So releasing a record down in the States is really fun because as we've been touring down here, it's really nice to show up at a show and have people from a couple counties away or that drove from the next state over that come up to you and say, saw you guys 3 years ago and you're in town with so-and-so and so happy you're finally back and got the album, really excited. And that's great because it really feels like, like we're happy to be able to show up and put on a show for people. We also got a chance to go to Kenya with an organization we work with called Free the Children, and that was a really neat experience being on an entirely other part of the world. We went initially to go just kind of see the work that's being done. Free the Children is a youth-based organization that really helps rally high school kids to know that they have a voice together and that they can truly be the change if they put their mind to it. And it's not, but they don't just focus on what's going on in other countries. They also very much like be the change, like in your hometown, whether it's like donating to the food bank, helping out a school in need in your own hometown. It's all about starting close to you, then kind of looking out, because the world is getting smaller and smaller by the day and by the year. So as soon as we realize that we're all connected, it'll be a lot easier for us all.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really neat. We got to, when we originally went to Africa, what had happened was there was a school from Maple Ridge. We'd done this thing in Vancouver called West Fest, and they'd given us $50. They gave us a check for $9,000. And the whole basis of the trip was, we're like, well, $9,000, guys, that's amazing, but how much can this really do? And so what we did then, Mark Kielberger, one of the founders, who founded the organization with his brother Craig, gave $50 and said, okay, guys, we're going to send you to buy a goat, because a goat gives so much to a family. It reproduces, you can sell it, it provides food, it provides milk for your babies. If you sell a goat, you can then buy school supplies and for your child. And that was really cool. We got to meet some amazing people and just saw so much positivity and so many people that were so happy that are considered to be living in poverty. But I think it really proves that to be truly rich, you don't need material things and money. Mm-hmm. It's really about family and friends.
Do you have anything that you'd like to say to the Readers of Popularity? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, if you haven't been to a Hedley show, check out a Hedley show. We'd love to see you out, and also just kind of keep your eyes forward and keep positive. I think there's a lot of people sometimes that kind of get bogged down in the unimportant things in life, and it's really a lot simpler than it is. So just stay positive.